Game day's here, I can hear the crowd. Turn on the lights, fans are cranked up and loud. Red or blue, we wear it proud. Yeah, we love our teams in this border town. Chiefs and Royals, Boo Mizzou, Rock Chalk, Jayhawk, KU. Hear that drum pounding in your feet. Yeah, you're marching to the beat of KC.
What is going on, YouTube? What is going on, Kansas City? And what is going on, everybody? And welcome to the beat of KC. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Lucas Murphy, and I'm excited to talk really Kansas City Chiefs. And I'm even more excited to talk about the offensive coordinator. And it sounds like they're going to be signing Eric Bieniemy to take over for Matt Nagy. Obviously, Matt Nagy is out of a contract. He's rumored to be taking a head coaching position. If not, he probably will more than likely be taking an offensive coordinator position with someone else where he can actually call plays. We know here in Kansas City, the offense runs through Andy Reid, but I think there's a lot more that goes into that. And we're really going to dive in and talk about why I personally feel and am extremely excited that Eric Bieniemy is back. Now we're going to jump in and we're really going to talk about the two completely different perspectives from 2018 to 2022. Eric Bieniemy was your offensive coordinator. We're really going to dive in and talk about the statistical aspect of that. And then we're going to talk about the post-Eric Bieniemy era, which was 2023 to 2025. And I think there's a lot of things that you can really factor into both of those specific timelines, and we're going to do exactly that. So when Eric Bieniemy was Kansas City's offensive coordinator, like we stated from 2018 to 2022, the Chiefs' offense was one of the most consistently dominating teams in the NFL. Again, that was one of the most dominating offenses in the entire NFL. Kansas City ranked first or second in yards per play every season while Eric Bieniemy was their offensive coordinator. And really during that span, the Chiefs frequently finished in the top 3 in total offense and scoring league-wide. So to take that a little bit even further, so in 2018, he had total offensive yards for the offense was 6,810. They averaged 425.6 yards per game. That's insane. And they averaged 35.3 points per game. So a very high output. Explosive scoring. So the reason I immediately want to pause there is the fact that when Eric Bieniemy was offensive coordinator, he had guys like prime Travis Kelce, prime Tyreek Hill, a very, very talented Sammy Watkins, and some 4 or 5 mix of really, you got to throw in Demarcus Robinson. They also had at some point Mecole Hardman come along, and then you got to even incorporate at some point they started to get in some other guys later on like Juju Smith-Schuster. So I really think when you look at just even 2018, he had some very talented wide receivers for Patrick Mahomes. Now, I'm not saying these most recent years he hasn't had talent, but ladies and gentlemen, you're talking about elite of the elite when you're talking about a prime Travis Kelce, a prime Tyreek Hill, a pretty much in his prime, more towards the end, Sammy Watkins, and you had some very decent contributions from the 4th and the 5th wide receiver. I mean, those were very competitive positions. In 2019, the team had 6,067 total offensive yards. They averaged 379.2 yards per game. They averaged 28.2 points per game. And it was still a very strong offense. Again, in 2020, 6,653, 415.8 yards per game, and averaged 32.5 points per game. It was elite, balanced scoring. 2021, 6,746. That would be the third highest in his tenure during that stretch. They averaged 396.8 yards per game and 28.2 points per game. Still a very top offense, deep into the playoff run. And then 2022, ladies and gentlemen, which was the prime of it all when it comes to total yards, was 7,032. They averaged 413.6. They averaged 29.2 points per game, which was franchise best total in yards. That was during Eric Bieniemy's first tenure. The Chiefs routinely again ranked near the top of the league in total yards and scoring, with multiple seasons above 400 yards per game and near or above 30-plus points per game. That just has not been the what we've seen the last few years. Now, again, I think we've had some regression in talent. We had to obviously take some, Tyreek Hill was traded, and that paid off dividends, ladies and gentlemen. I don't want to discredit that. But you have an aging Travis Kelce who is just not as contributable. He didn't contribute as much as he did during that elite prime time of Eric Bieniemy being the offensive coordinator. And there were stretches where the supporting cast may not have been the best. I mean, at some point you had Kadarius Toney, Marquez Valdez-Scantling. I mean, there were a slew of wide receivers that just could not even compete with some of the elite that the Chiefs had during that tenure. So when you really look at the post-Eric Bieniemy era, 2023 to 25, immediately in 2023, they had 5,972. They did average 351.3, and they only averaged 21.8 points per game, which is a noticeable drop in overall offense. Now in 2024, 5,570, they averaged 327.6, and they averaged 22.6 points per game, further decline in yardage and scoring. And then to really wrap out this year, 2025, 5,451, 21.3 points per game, and 21.3 points per game. And so you can see the latest season shows continual struggles under Matt Nagy and really the structure. But I think a lot of that, it does fall on Matt Nagy because it's like a double-edged sword, but in both, the double-edged sword aspect is a negative. And the reason I say that is because if they have success during that tenure of Matt Nagy, the success would probably go towards Andy Reid, really the dynamic of what Patrick Mahomes has, and really how they functioned. When they are terrible and they struggle the way they did, then it's like, okay, let's point the finger at Matt Nagy. He's the offensive coordinator. He's the play designer. There's things that he's obviously very involved in. And I think that that's really it's unfortunate that that's how it is. Because I don't think Matt Nagy is a terrible coach in any aspect. I mean, if you go back and look while he was the head coach of the Bears, ladies and gentlemen, he did phenomenal things with Mitch Trubisky. He was able to take them to the playoffs. It fell off, the wheels fell off, and then obviously he would get fired and he would return to the Kansas City Chiefs. So I personally do not feel Matt Nagy is a terrible coach. But where I do think they're struggling is to find change. I think they're struggling to find ways to really kind of be more dual-headed. They're not solely just focused on running RPOs. They're not solely focused running crossers. They're not solely focused on, they don't have that deep threat. They don't have the ability to really spread out the field the way they have before. Many people will be like, well, Lucas, they got Xavier Worthy. It's just not this. Tyreek Hill compared to Xavier Worthy is insanely different. Sammy Watkins compared to anybody else on this roster is insanely different. And a prime Travis Kelce is just hands over better than what you've seen in a more aging Travis Kelce. So you can't really put two and two together. But I think what you can is the fact that Eric Bieniemy brings you more than just X's and O's. In a market that never sleeps, one name rises above the rest. Lisa Miller from Dan Lynch Real Estate. Trusted by hundreds and recognized across the Midwest. She delivers results when it matters the most. With over 13 years of experience and licenses in both Kansas and Missouri, Lisa isn't just selling houses. She's helping you find a place to call home. Whether you are a first-time home buyer, looking to upsize, or selling your current home, Lisa makes the process smooth and stress-free. As a local expert passionate about building lasting relationships, she ensures her clients feel confident and satisfied every step of the way. Don't wait, your perfect home is just a call away. Contact Lisa today at 913-579-3246 or 913-369-3000 or visit lisamillersellskc.com. Let Lisa Miller at Lynch Real Estate help you start your next exciting chapter. And let her know the beat of KC, Lucas Murphy, sent you her way. He's going to bring you the mentality. He's going to bring you the edge. He's going to bring you the attitude. He's going to get guys to buy in again into what this team was and what they can do. And I do think he's going to bring a new kind of image to what this offense can look like. He's an extremely good running backs coach. Everywhere he's gone, he's had success with running backs. He's been a running backs coach in majority of his tenures outside of being an offensive coordinator for the Kansas City Chiefs, and I believe UCLA when he went and took the job for 1 year. Outside of that, majority of his tenure as a coach has been a running backs coach. And I think the biggest thing is respect. He gains respect, and you've heard it from Patrick Mahomes to Travis Kelce to a ton of players. He's going to expect the best of you. He's going to get the best out of you. And I think that really it comes down to it as well as like the accountability factor. And a lot of people are like, well, you don't want to just hire an offensive coordinator to hold everybody accountable. I don't think it's just that. I think that there's not anybody to really, when things get tough, when adversity starts to enter into a football game, because it's going to happen. It doesn't matter what football game you're involved in. There's going to be adversity. Injuries happen. The score can start to get out of hand. You can come out and just be flat. You need somebody that has that rah, get in you and really kind of get you going type of mentality. And that's what Eric Bieniemy provides. And I think there's a lot more that he's involved in. It's the biggest thing is people that really talk about the Kansas City Chiefs, from whether it's YouTube or on Twitter, they're not in the day-to-day every day. They're not seeing how he manages meetings. They're not seeing how he really kind of bonds with the players and creates good relationships with the players. And so when he is really getting after you, if you know him and you know what he wants and expects from you, then you're going to have that respect in return, and you're going to want to play to your fullest, whether you are a college athlete or a professional athlete. And I think a lot of that really transpired in his first tenure in 2018 to 2022. We were able to see a very high-performing Patrick Mahomes. We were able to see a running back group that wasn't led by Isaiah Pacheco. It was led by guys who really bought in and believed in what Eric Bieniemy was doing and why he was telling them to play a certain style, to hold them extremely accountable in practice, to have them practice the best. I mean, we saw it when he, in the very beginning of the season this year, when he was with the Chicago Bears as the running backs coach, and they're running through drills, I believe, in training camp. And Eric Bieniemy's yelling at a few guys because they can go harder. There's a lot of things that I think Eric Bieniemy is going to provide, and I think that's why it's more significant. Do I think they can revamp and really kind of change the things that the offense does? Yes. I think we got away from some of the trickiness that we've had. And I'm not saying every play needs to be a trick play. You don't need to constantly be running flea flickers. We don't need to be doing the play where the Chiefs come out and they spin around like Ring Around the Rosie, those types of things, but they were lacking. There was not that kind of craziness involved in the offense this year. So I think Eric Bieniemy paired with an Andy Reid can really start to generate some of those type of offensive plays. And I think too, I really want to focus on, a lot of people are like, well, we really need change. We need a new image. We need a new look in this offense. Ladies and gentlemen, there's two types of plays on offense. You can either hand the football off or you can pass the football. And I get the new image, and you want to change things up and really not be, put the same stuff on tape so your opponents can see the exact same thing. And that's really what happened in 2025. There just wasn't growth in the offense. It just was a comfortable thing. They felt like they needed to continue with the same stuff. There was no change in the offense. But when you really get down to the studs, you're either passing the football or you're running the football. You need to kind of change up how you're doing those. And I think that's the biggest thing. Going under center more, maybe running less crossers, maybe running less bubble screens, really opening guys up that have the ability. And I think that's something that Eric Bieniemy is going to be able to do. So that's why I believe that he is a great addition. I'm a big fan of Eric Bieniemy. I've always been a big fan of Eric Bieniemy. I think that he just provides you, he's that type of coach that you want to play for, you want to win for, and you want to have success for. So when we really kind of get back into this, the numbers, really kind of look at Bieniemy's offense helped power 2 Super Bowl victories in 2019 and 2022. And I really think, too, regressions after Bieniemy left. And since Bieniemy's departure prior to the 2023 season, the Chiefs have seen that noticeable drop, really in offensive production and efficiency. And again, I think players came, they went, and obviously when Bieniemy was here, he had an elite offense. The guys, like we've stated earlier, were at their peaks. They were performing well. They connected well with Patrick Mahomes. He had just the right amount of, group in the running backs so they could run the football when they needed to and break off decent yardage. They hit the gaps when they needed to. They were able to run to the outside. There was a lot of things that paired with the ability to just sling the rock. And I think that's the biggest thing. So the downward trend in the key statistics are Chiefs yards per play declined to 9th in 23, then 22nd in 24, and then they were 23rd in 2025. So you can see really from 23 to 24, the dramatic decline in yards per play. And that's That's a significant drop off. And again, offensive yardage and scoring dipped significantly compared to that 2022. So for example, in 2022, the total yards was 7,032. That was the league high. 2023 total yards, it was 5,972. Regressed even more to 2024, where the total yards was 5,570. And I think when you really kind of look at it, it was less explosive production. Under Matt Nagy, the Chiefs' offense has really been less dynamic. They've been less efficient. But I think, again, you can't point the finger solely at Matt Nagy, because there's a reason why certain offensive coordinators are choosing not to come to Kansas City. There's a reason why the Kansas City Chiefs just chose not to interview any candidates for the open position. There's a reason why guys like Mike McDaniels, who I'd still truly believe everybody was extremely high on Mike McDaniel, but the thing is that he wants to be a head coach, and there's a ton of opportunity out there to be a head coach. So is he going to come to Kansas City, take an offensive coordinator position where he's not going to be calling plays, he's just going to be relaying those in? He might have a little bit of insight and provide, some of the structure around their game plan during meetings, but is he going to be calling the plays? No. And the same goes for a lot of those guys that were mentioned. That's the reason why they didn't come here. And so they were like, well, we need a guy that we know we're comfortable with. I'm sure they really discussed and talked about it with Patrick Mahomes, because in his meeting that he had with the media, where he talked about his injury, but also was asked about who he would like in an offensive coordinator, he really gave praise to Matt Nagy, but then accepted the fact that he's probably going to be a head coach or go call plays somewhere else. So he said he really wants somebody that can bring something new every day. But then the fact is that he hit on multiple things about bringing, kind of holding accountability, really having kind of that accountability piece. He hit on that twice. I think that that's a significant thing, and it really kind of resonated with Eric Bieniemy, because that's what he does, is he holds people accountable. I think really one of the biggest things too was Mahomes' efficiency dropped. Independent, really, the analysis shows Patrick Mahomes' passer rating and big play productivity were significantly higher in 22 than subsequent seasons, with notable dips in yardage and TDs to interception ratios. But again, I think when you really look at it, I think some of that doesn't really even factor in the offensive coordinator. I think it really factors in the fact that who was on the field, who was playing on the offensive side of the football, how the offensive line was structured, versus how the offensive line is structured under Matt Nagy, who the weapons were. And I really think that that is a big difference. And so at some point, you can kind of say Matt Nagy was dealt a lesser hand than when Eric Bieniemy was actually the offensive coordinator. Now, why Eric Bieniemy's return could reignite the offense, and a lot of people are like, what does he even provide? What does he even give the Kansas City Chiefs? Well, Bieniemy brings back creative, aggressive play design. And I think it historically took full advantage of Patrick Mahomes' unique skill set. I think that's one of the biggest things. I think there was creativity. I think there was an aggression in play style. I think that was needed. And I think he's going to bring that back. Discipline and accountability. Those are two words that have been tossed around so much with talking about Eric Bieniemy that it's kind of mind-numbing. Players and analysts really alike have noted that Bieniemy was a detail-oriented, no-nonsense coach who helped maintain offensive focus and discipline, something many Chiefs fans and insiders say has been missing. So that's where a lot of people are kind of like, yeah, I like this move, but at the same time, we needed something different. And I get that aspect. But at the same time, if you're missing a key piece of accountability, you're missing a key piece of truly having focus, and I think that is a big piece too, then you're going to really kind of have an elevation in that, and you should see an improvement. I think the track record, really with the same core personnel, the 2018 to 2022 season, Chiefs didn't always have really I think the biggest thing is they did have the perfect personnel. They really matched up for what the Kansas City Chiefs were doing. It was new. It was dynamic. They had the best quarterback in the NFL paired with some of the best options that he could throw to in the NFL. And they won as many games as they possibly could with a lot of the high statistical stats we provided in the beginning of this video. And I think a lot of that was a part of Bieniemy, but I think at the same time, that was really a excited, motivated Andy Reid. You got to think about how many times we've gone to the AFC Championship, how many times we've gone to the Super Bowl. At some point, it does get kind of taxing. And that's just reality. For someone who works as hard as Patrick Mahomes, for someone who works as hard as Travis Kelce, a lot of this team, but even more specifically, someone who works as hard as Andy Reid, that will catch up to you. You kind of got to get gut punched, which they did this year. It was an abysmal season. This gut punch is going to really probably create some rejuvenation. And I think that's really going to open the eyes of this offense. I think this is going to open the eyes of Andy Reid. I think now it's like, hey, I did go to all these postseasons. I did go to all these Super Bowls. I did do all this great stuff with this talent. But now I'm being gut checked, and there's a chance that, my seat's getting just a little bit hotter, because I do think the more he starts to kind of go back to the same guys, go back to the same kind of, if it doesn't have success, then you're really starting to point the finger at Andy Reid. So those are things to kind of pay attention to. But I think, too, one of the big things is Bieniemy's tenure really overlapped with the rise of the modern RPO, midfield tempo schemes, high-efficiency passing concepts that really have since become league standards, really meaning he's positioned to update his approach rather than repeat the old formula. That's where I think is most exciting. I don't think that they're just going to come in and say, hey, let's run it back again. It's a different person in here that just kind of holds accountability, that just holds a different standard. I don't think that's what it's going to be. I think they are going to really kind of break it down to the studs again, and they're really going to look at their playbook. They're really going to look at how guys function within this offense. And I do truly believe, because Patrick Mahomes tore his ACL, they're really going to have to focus on running the football just a little bit more. They're going to have a little bit more success running the football. And who's better to come in than Eric Bieniemy, who can really motivate this running back room to really help the offensive line understand how to create certain holes and really kind of give their running backs the vision, which was lacking, to go through those holes and break off big runs. That's where I'm excited for. So I think when you really look at this, the bottom line, bringing back Eric Bieniemy isn't just a sentimental reunion. It's a strategic effort to return the Chiefs' offense to elite, backed by measurable performances, really differences before and after his departure. So under Bieniemy, again, in 2018 to 22, we had top offensive rankings, league-leading efficiency, and Super Bowl wins. And I think that's the big thing, is obviously under Nagy, we were able to do a few of those things as well. But I really think that that's what they're trying to get back to, is those 3 check marks we just listed. I appreciate y'all checking out this video. Let me know down in the comment section, are you excited that Eric Bieniemy is going to be back in the Chiefs building, or are you absolutely just disgusted and you're like, what are we doing, ladies and gentlemen? Let me know down in the comment section. Make sure you guys smash that like button, smash that subscribe button, and I end every video the exact same way. Have a good day.